Welcome back to our study in the book of Ezra. And the theme of this book is restoring a people. We are already to chapter 9, one chapter to go after this. And chapter 9 and 10 is about reaching the goal. And today we'll be looking at problems and prayer. And they go hand in hand. If you've been with me, I review each week and share with you that actually Ezra, Esther, and Nehemiah are a trilogy. They chronologically fit together and are all about the return of the Jews from exile, the rebuilding of the wall, the rebuilding of the temple, but also renewing their faith. So Nehemiah is already in my playlist and has been recorded. I am doing Ezra now, and then following this I'll be doing Esther, so you can catch them all. Highlighted in blue is where we are in our outline. And today is about problems in prayer. We have seen companions in the caravan, the previous chapter, and then a commitment and a commission in chapter 7. Here's something very interesting. We're about 483 years from the ministry, the baptism of the Lord Jesus Christ. And here is our chronological listing of where we are, the blue arrow. We're already down into Ezra. If you look to the right, 7 through 10, chapter 9 is where we're dropping into. And so today is a shorter chapter. There's only 14 verses, and it deals primarily with a bigger problem of mixed marriages. And you'll see how it got to this and how to straighten it out. Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests, the Levites, have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. All right, so the princes is leadership. They are not Levite leaders, so they're not priests nor prophets, but they are leaders. And Ezra has brought the people back into the land, and they've sort of scattered out and taken inventory of how things are, and they come back and said, we are no longer a pure people. The people that now occupy this land since we've been gone, that the people that were left behind, they've intermarried amongst them, and this is the group. And so we're finding that we have a major mixed bag of problems. So the word separated means actually separated with distinction, that they've done this for a reason, because God's people were to be a distinct people in many ways, and one of them was in their marriage. The word abomination, and we've run across that before, it in the Hebrew is translated abomination into our English, but another word that pops up in the Hebrew is unspeakables. So an abomination is just unspeakable. We can't, it's so bad, talking about it makes it bad. And so just what has happened, and we're going to see this, that there was a shortage of men, and the shortage spanned all three categories, people, priests, and the Levites. So, verse 2, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed, the Israelite seed, have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yes, the hand of the princes and the rulers have been chief in this trespass. And so he said it's not just the people, but it's the leadership that was here. The rulers and the princes. The word holy means holy or separated, separatedness. And to trespass in this case is a very unholy act that they've done. And they said the leadership led the way. when they should have kept things together. So that creates a bigger problem. And when I heard this thing, Ezra is saying, when I heard this thing, I rent my garment, my mantle, and plucked off the hair of my head and of my beard, and I sat down astonied, meaning stunned, like stoned. Not drunk, but just I'm stunned. I'm in a day. I cannot believe this. Then were assembled unto me every one that trembled at the words. And this phrase is only found 3 other times in the Bible. It's that serious. They trembled at the words of the God of Israel because of the transgression of those that had been carried away. And I sat, again, stunned until the evening sacrifice, just utterly appalled. And so he just doesn't know what to do with this, and so he gets by himself, and he's just stunned as he thinks this through. And I certainly think he's praying and asking the Lord wisdom on how to work out of this, what has to be done. So how did Ezra respond? Well, Ezra, he tore his hair, then there was his hair, and then there's going to be prayer. So there's tear, hair, and prayer. I found that somewhere on the internet and said, I need to put that in there. It would be a good outline to preach. Then here's Ezra's prayer. And all the way to the end, it's all about we have sinned. So here we go. And at the evening sacrifice, I rose up from my heaviness. And the word heaviness, that's the only time in the Hebrew word is mentioned in the Bible. And having rent my garments and my mantle, I fell on my knees and spread out my hands unto the Lord my God. And I said, O my God, I'm ashamed and blush to lift up my face to you, my God. For our iniquities are increased. I thought they were bad, but now they're compounded over our head, and our trespasses grown up unto the heavens. Since the days of our fathers have we been a great trespass unto this day. And for our iniquities, our depravities, have we, our kings and our priests, been delivered into the hand of the kings of the lands, to the sword, to captivity, to spoil, and to confusion or shame of face, as it is this day. And the shame is probably the worst of all, because Israel is supposed to be a distinct people, a testimony to the world of God's blessing in God's hands, and their trust in God, and what a society and what a nation could be when they belonged to the Lord and sought to please the Lord. And now for a little space or a moment, grace has been shown from the Lord our God to leave us a remnant to escape, and to give us a stake or a nail in his holy place, that our God may lighten our eyes and give us a little reviving in our bondage. What he's saying was what God has called us to do. We haven't done that, and nobody in the world, we're just like any other nation. But he says, I see, though, that God has given us a space of grace. Now that would preach well. Just a little space of grace for God's people to start working back and repenting back to the Lord. For we were bondmen, yet our God has not forsaken us in our bondage, but has extended mercy unto us in the sight of the kings of Persia. So he's reviewing and saying, we were slaves, but God was still there, and God granted us a lot of grace. The kings of Persia really treated us quite well, to giving us reviving or preservation of life, to set up the house of our God, and to repair the desolations thereof, and to give us a wall in Judah and in Jerusalem. And so Persia, through the moving of God, gave the Jews back everything and allowed them to rebuild. And now, O our God, what shall we say after this? For we've forsaken your commandments. We've abandoned them. We basically said, so what? And left. And the commandments of God are a code of wisdom on how to live and how to deal and how to be. Yes, they can be a direct reference to the 10 Commandments because they forsook those. and the living of those commandments they had forsaken, which you have commanded by your servants the prophets, saying, the land unto which you go to possess it, it is an unclean land with the filthiness of the people of the lands, and with their abominations which have filled it from one end to another with their uncleanness. Their lifestyle was filthy sexual immoralities. And Israel bought into this. Now therefore, give not your daughters. All right, here's the start. All right, from this point on, Ezra says, give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters to your sons. No more intermarrying, period. They live here, but we're not marrying them anymore. Nor, number two, nor seek their peace or their wealth forever. He said, don't let them buy into your life. Don't let them seek peace, and don't seek peace with them. Don't seek the wealth that they have. God will bless. Go and build your own wealth and build your own empire for the Lord, that you may be strong and eat the good of the land and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever. All right, so the way out of this was you have your kids marry right, and when you leave an inheritance, you're leaving it to that which is right, and to your grandchildren, and to your great-grandchildren. And after all that has come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that you are our God, has punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and have given us such deliverance as this. Should we again break your commandments and join in affinity, become a son-in-law to the people of these abominations, intermarrying again, and we're in-laws with the ungodly, would not you be angry with us till you had consumed or finished or just determined our end, so that there should be no remnant nor escaping? Ezra is just saying, look, Lord, I don't blame you, and I can see that we can get back on track here. But if we just turn our backs again, write us off. Just tell me you've determined our end. O Lord God of Israel, thou art righteous, for we remain yet escaped, as it is this day. Behold, we are before you in our trespasses, for we cannot stand before thee because of this. Ezra ends this all in a short prayer, in a confession before the Lord. This does not end with this verse. We have one more chapter, and this will be revisited in the next chapter. But what's our takeaway? What's the message of pounding that we need to pound home that Ezra leaves with us? Number one, in the first four verses, and this really makes a good outline of the chapter, he says, we found you bound to unbelievers. It stops now. Ezra fell to the ground and he prayed. And he understood when you're bound to unbelievers or bound to sin, then you better hit the ground and pray. In 8 and 9, we found, and Ezra found, the grace of God. And then there needed to be a vocal sound that Ezra gave, a confession before the Lord for the sins of the people. Remember bound ground, found, and sound, and pound that message home. We get the conclusion of the book and the conclusion to this incident. And while it's a good place to stop, it's not. And the question that we need to look at the church today is, we lose our kids to the world. They go marry lost people. They go marry people that do not know Christ. And we let them do it. And we need to teach our children through our example and teach them the matter of God's people need to marry God's people, to marry Christian people. Thank you for listening in. This was a tough one, and but one that is very, very much needed. May God bless you this week. Stand strong for the Lord. Be an Ezra. And if I can help you in any way, here is our email address.